2 Corinthians chapter 10. The weapons of our warfare are mighty in God for pulling down strongholds. 2 Corinthians chapter 10 addresses several themes, including Paul's authority and his approach to spiritual warfare. Exegesis by sections and verses. Verses 1 to 2. Paul's approach to authority and boldness. Paul begins by asserting his authority as an apostle, pleading with the Corinthians through the meekness and gentleness of Christ. He acknowledges that in person, he appears humble and gentle, but in his absence, he intends to be bold against those who wrongly accuse him of walking according to the flesh. Verses 3 to 6. The spiritual nature of warfare. Paul explains that though he and his fellow believers are living in the physical world, in the flesh, their battle is not fought with physical weapons. Their weapons are spiritual, provided by God and powerful for tearing down spiritual strongholds. These strongholds include arguments and thoughts that oppose the knowledge of God. We must strive to bring every thought into submission to Christ. Verses 7 to 11. Discerning beyond outward appearances. Paul challenges the Corinthians' tendency to judge based on outward appearances. He makes it clear that if someone believes they belong to Christ, they should recognize that Paul and his fellow workers also belong to Christ. He discusses the discrepancy between his powerful letters and his perceived weak, physical presence in speech. Paul asserts that just as he is bold in his letters, he will be bold in his actions when he is present. Verses 12 to 16. Embracing God's appointed area of ministry. Paul addresses the issue of comparing oneself to others. He warns against measuring one's worth based on human standards and boasting in one's own accomplishments. He emphasizes that his authority and ministry have been appointed by God within a specific sphere or area of ministry, which includes the Corinthians. Paul's desire is for the Corinthians' faith to grow, leading to an expansion of their shared sphere of influence. He intends to preach the gospel in regions beyond them. Verse 17. Glory in the Lord, not in self. Paul quotes from the Old Testament, Jeremiah 9 verse 24, to highlight the idea that true glory should be attributed to the Lord, not to oneself. This emphasizes the importance of humility and giving credit to God for all accomplishments. Verse 18. Our ultimate commendation is from the Lord. Paul concludes by reiterating that it's not those who commend themselves who are truly approved or commended by God. Rather, it's those whom the Lord approves and commends that truly matter. This underscores the idea that ultimate approval and commendation come from God. Overall summary. This passage from 2 Corinthians 10 addresses themes of spiritual warfare, Paul's apostolic authority, the dangers of comparison and boasting, and the need for humility and recognition of God's approval.